Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Agile Online Summit. We've got quite a program for you today. In fact, we have so many things. I don't know how you will be able to see them all. So let me show you quickly what we've got for you today. Starting with the sustainability track, we have Mika Into talking about the sustainagility manifesto. That's a very interesting perspective. Then we also have Mats Kempe talking about how teams can become more sustainable. He has a model with only 4 letters he's going to share with us. Ramanathan is going to talk about 5 different leadership styles and help you choose which one suits you better. And finally, Barry Brewer is going to talk about leadership competency, an agile approach. On the tool side, Bevan Williams is going to talk about how our brain sabotages our ability to give good feedback, and this promises to have a lot of insights for coaches and scrum masters out there. Then Peter Zulke Gregor is going to talk about how toilet paper helped them foster a psychological safety environment. That's the title in itself is already quite a promise. And Colleen Johnson is going to talk about one topic that I very much like to discuss. So I hope I can see Colleen in the tools track lean coffee that happens in about 2 hours. So hopefully she'll be there because I want to ask a few questions about that. And Fred Deichler is going to talk about radiating information using Jira automation. So definitely something to pay attention. And on the happiness track, we have the talk by Gilberto Urueta, Embracing Ambiguity in the Pursuit of Happiness. Ify O'Brien is going to talk about 3 ways to be happier at work today. Greg Ryder is going to talk about lessons from courtside. It's about tennis and how sports can give us some insights into happiness in our teams. And Florence is going to talk about how to make an impact as a thought leader. But that's not all. We will also have 2 workshops, which we will be attending here on the live YouTube stream. The first workshop is Shift Left, the turnaround in digital product development with Björn Skotte. And the next workshop, the second workshop of today, is going to be remote meetings, from meetings to experiences. Chris Stone promises a lot with the title, and I'm eager to hear what he has to say. And the final session of today here on the YouTube stream will be the Lean Coffee with the Tools Track speakers. Looking forward to that as well, so hope we can see you all there. There's a lot more, though, that we have today. And one of the things we have is right here. So to my side, well, that side over there is the chat on YouTube, or down there if you're on mobile phone. And if you have questions, thoughts, ideas, why not share those on the chat and let's have a conversation. Let's network a bit and let's talk about the insights we're collecting from the summit today. As you are here, please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel, and also click that like button so that other people like you can also find this video and hopefully find it useful as well. And as we get started for today's workshops, I do want to remind you that all of the proceedings contribute to Ukraine, the Red Cross specifically. So if you end up buying a VIP ticket on the Agile Web Summit, Agile Online Summit website, we are giving away 10% of all summit revenues. That's not profit, that's all revenues. We're giving 10% of all revenues to the Red Cross effort in the Ukraine. So not only are you keeping lifetime access to all the videos on the summit, but you're also contributing to a safer and more peaceful world, and obviously helping people in need, which is very important in these times. That's the intro for today. We're going to do some tweeting right now. We're going to announce that the live stream is up and running, and get some more people interested in participating. And soon we will be sharing the workshop with Björn Skotte. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'm famous for murdering people's names. So that's, I guess, an occupational hazard when you talk to so many people from so many different cultures. And we'll be joining Bjorn's workshop in a second. If you're here on YouTube, don't forget you have the chat right here. You can type questions, thoughts, observations there, and if you're on a mobile device, down here. And why not also click subscribe and like for this session. We can take this session as a little bit of a Q&A and ask me anything as well. So at any point, just ask any questions. We'll have a conversation about that. But without further ado, I'm going to start the Zoom call with Björn's workshop and hopefully see some of the participants there in a second, and then we can start participating in Björn's workshop. Let me show you the workshop again. So Björn describes this event as shift left aims to deploy different processes as early and directly as possible in the software development process. While this paradigm originally comes from the testing culture, so shifting left means moving the test earlier in the process, or at least it meant at some point, it has major implications for all fields in product development. Product owners and companies are often not prepared for this mindset. So in this workshop, we hope to learn what is shift left and why it isn't only a topic for the testing colleagues. Also, how to implement this shift left thinking from top to bottom in the organization, and also how product owners can become the primus inter pares to influence at all necessary levels in order to shift the product owner to become more of a product CEO. That's how Björn describes the workshop. We'll be joining the workshop in a minute and participating as guests, invited guests here on the YouTube channel. So don't hesitate to also ask questions. I can convey those questions to the host and to the participants as we ourselves participate directly in this workshop. On the left, is it left? Yeah, bottom left corner here, you will see that there's a subscriber goal. We want to get to 1,500 subscribers for the channel. We are at 755 as we speak. So if you click subscribe, there will be a notification showing up, and I will definitely thank you for doing that, as it also helps other people with similar interests to find the channel. So thank you for subscribing. You rock, and will definitely help us, help this channel reach more people, but as well help other people like you to find this content. So hopefully you'll find that this video useful and valuable, and then click subscribe and click link. And we're only a few minutes away from the workshop, so we're just waiting a little bit until Björn starts the Zoom call, and then we'll get right there. Just put the summary of the workshop right there so that as you join, you can find out more about what the workshop is about. Hey, Björn. Can you hear me, Björn? Hello. Can you hear me, Björn?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me
All
too?
right. It's
All
great to
right.
see you.
Great to see you too.
All right, so
So,
we're live on YouTube as well. So
oh,
first
awesome.
of all, let me say that in advance so that you know. And while we wait for the rest of the participants to join, why don't you give us a very quick intro, just a couple of words on what to expect for this workshop?
Yeah. Well, it's a mixture of talk and workshop. It's about shift left, which is a paradigm usually coined at the types of testing software. So speeding up software testing and doing software testing in the very early phase of the process of the software development lifecycle. But from my point of view, the real turnaround in product development comes with shift left applied holistically on all levels, including the organizational structure, code level, and stuff like that. And I hope I can widen the angle for all those agile people out there, how to improve their product development processes and speed up time to market.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw in the description in one of the takeaways you had, so that the PO can become a little bit more of the product CEO. What do you mean by
Yes.
product CEO?
Well, normally in the Scrum Guide says the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the product and thus shall decide what features to develop and what not. But in most organizations, especially in larger organizations and in organizations that are more some kind of classical organizations, the product owner is not like a CEO of the product, because there are other departments who say, okay, let's do this feature, let's do that feature. And the product owner can't decide together with his team end to end. And I think this has to change. And also the art on product development and how you develop the product, especially also on a code level. And for that, my mission is to provide also some insights for product owners and for agile people, what technical things their team has to improve. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to it. I loved
Thank
how
you.
you talked about the product owner, of course, as part of this shift left paradigm.
Yes.
I'm also very interested in here what we come up with when it comes to the other aspects, because shift left is kind of a philosophical perspective on how to improve the processes and how they get executed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. So you tell me when to start?
That's up to you. We're
Okay.
here on YouTube. We're watching you and
Okay.
participating through the chat, but you are the
Some
leader
people are
here.
coming. Okay. So I will start in, I think, 1 minute. So 5 after 6, because some people are joining already. Okay. So I will start now. Welcome to my.
It's a great change when it comes to thinking about how processes are organized. This shift left idea. So let's hear what Björn has to share with us.
So why do organizations struggle with fast development and fast product development? Well, at Mayflower, we help a lot of companies with our software teams to deliver products faster. Throughout the years, we noticed a lot of patterns and issues where organizations struggle to inhibit modern product and software development paradigms. And this summer, at our vacation in Italy, lying on a comfy sofa in a lush garden, I was thinking a lot about these struggles and why companies can't move forward.
I love that vacation in Italy.
Practical advice how to improve your product development at all levels. But first of all, let's look into the meaning of shift left for those of you who don't know what shift left means. Shift left is all about moving a process to the left on the traditional software lifecycle. It's about moving the process left, so that means doing things earlier. And doing things earlier, what does that mean? Well, that means you deliver earlier and thus you get feedback earlier from your users. So it's easier to answer the question, do we build the right thing? And the term shift left, it was coined by the testing community and used for early testing in the software development lifecycle. And it was brought to the security community, which also inhibits shift left. But then this paradigm ended in software product development. And why is that? Well, let's look at the other side. Your C-level, your middle management, everybody. We all want fast product development, right? Everybody wants that. But let's face reality. That's a dream, because product development, especially in larger companies, is slow. So we should take a look at why is it so slow. There are several studies out there that looked at development processes, and I will bring you and zoom into some of those statistics and findings they had. Around 40% of time is spent on analysis and specification. Especially in larger companies, you have separate departments who do the analysis and specification part of the product development and then throw it to the developers. And there's a huge improvement there when we shift left those things and organize product development in another way. Only 17% of the whole lead time from idea to delivery is used for design and development. That means the software development happens only in 17% of the whole time. And about 20% of the time will be used for verification. That means testing. And we have another one. 23% is wait time. That's the time between verification and release. So the time we have to wait after verification that everything is okay, and then it gets released to the users. It gets brought onto the servers and so on. And this is because oftentimes testing will be either done outside the team, or because you have special functions like testers inside your team who are overwhelmed with testing tasks, and because you have some kind of system administration departments who will roll out and deliver this to the live servers. So there's a lot of time which is nearly wait time, which is useless time where you have to wait. And then there's another one. 26% up to 50% of requirements are never done, which means this is waste, a mere 26 to 50%. So this is pure waste. And of course, if you are in the Agile world, you know, we all know the chaos report, which states since, I think, more than 15 years that a lot of requirements that are planned for software packages and software systems will never be created, will never be done. So this is all a lot of waste in the requirements phase. So we are really shocked. And well, shocking is one way, or to be shocked is one way, but let's look what the ideal world should look like. And if we look at the ideal world, we look at the DevOps lifecycle. As you can see here, We have the life cycle of development, which means create, plan, verify, package. Then we have the ops side, which is about releasing, about configuring, about monitoring, observability, and stuff like that. And there are different phases inside this life cycle. And in today's cloud-based, hyper-fast environments, this will be more like a fire hose and not like such a phase-based structure. It's difficult to draw these things, but it shouldn't be in such phases. But we'll get to that later. The reality is that at least 40% of the lead time is done before development. That means 40% of time is used for analysis and specification before any single line of code will be written. So that's a huge waste here at this point. And we ask, why is that? Why is that reality in larger organizations? Well, it's because oftentimes there's no real end-to-end responsible product team there. I talked to Vasco about this a few moments ago. And normally you have several departments inside your organization, like marketing department, product marketing department, and other departments, and they all give you the requirements to your product team. So you are not fully responsible in an end-to-end way, as the Scrum Guide and the Agile guides in the world say we should be. So the ideal world should be an end-to-end responsibility inside the team, so that from ideation to delivery, we are responsible, we are autonomous, and we can push features onto the user. So there's a diverse set of departments that all play a role in the chain of product development. And the question we should ask is, how can we overcome that, right? So the idea is, how can we do it better? So there are several areas where you can shift left, and only if we shift left in all areas simultaneously, we will benefit from a great development speed with less time to market and greater confidence that we built the right thing, because that's all about in product development, in agile development. We want to build the right thing. We can't foresee what's the right thing for your user. So we have to test it. We have to get early feedback on, and that's all about in the shift left paradigm. So let's dive into the areas where you as a team and as an organization, where you could improve. First of all, we are at the code level. And I favor trunk-based or mainline-based development. Of course, there are different camps of how you do development. And while branch-based development has the advantage of separating new feature development into special areas of your version control system, it may lead to breaking the code when integrating those branches into mainline later, especially when development on a new feature lasts longer. So that means the probability that integration breaks gets higher and higher as more time gets by. The fastest teams out there, if you look at the DORA report and other reports, the fastest teams rely on trunk-based development combined with great CD/CI pipelines that deliver feedback about code changes and code integrations at the earliest possible level. And I really would recommend that you look at your way of working with your version control system and to abandon branch-based development. So let's move on to mainline development. The next thing you could improve at the code level is static code analysis and observability. At the code level, static code analysis and observability, which is directly integrated into the IDE of your developer, will give you also a lot of speed. Because if I, as a developer, when I'm working inside my code editor, I want to get direct feedback about my intended code changes I'm doing just before committing it into the version control system and just before delivering it to the user. So at the code level, we should have a lot of tools that automatically analyze the code changes we make. They observe the code changes, they observe and monitor the live systems and can predict if the code will break or make it. So the next thing you should do is to look at your development infrastructure, at your configuration, and to see if you use static code analysis and observability at the right level for you. Furthermore, you should do automated testing on all levels. And this is an old one because the term shift left was coined in the area of testing. This is where the word or the meaning of shift left comes. It's, of course, you need a lot of testing, especially automated tests. They are helpful, as well as those paradigms like test-driven development. And testing shall be done by the developers directly in order to avoid errors and get faster feedback. So you shouldn't have testers, dedicated testers inside your team. This will lead to wait times. The developers should do the tests, and they should be augmented by automated systems which do the testings for them at different levels of the code and the system. And that's why shift left was originally born in the testing camp, because if you look at waterfall-based, phase-based development, you had first of all development, and then at the end of the project, you had the testing phase. And shift left meant that the testing phase should be integrated into the development. And of course, every professional developer, every software crafter says, well, that's normal, that's usual things. But as we have seen a lot of large companies, this is not usual stuff, trust me. And we think at the human level, techniques like pair programming or mob programming, they will help you to maintain a high code quality and catch errors earlier in the development process. So you can tick the boxes at the code level if you do a lot of automated testing as early as possible, right into the code editor of the developer. Next thing is security. At the code level, you should shift security left, because it improves efficiency and minimizes risk in software development. Security tools and environments shall be integrated directly into the development workflow, early on directly at the IDE and onto your pipelines. The benefit will come as this shift left on security will keep your application clean and sober and help you to catch security flaws early on. So also security tools, security packages, security libraries, they should be integrated directly into your code environment, into your code editor, so that you catch those security errors really early on in the development process. And this will help you to get better feedback and, of course, to increase the code quality right at the IDE. The next thing is continuous delivery. Everybody talks about continuous delivery. And trust me, we've seen a lot of large companies where continuous delivery is really a mess. But what does continuous delivery mean? The whole thing about continuous delivery is to work so that your software is always releasable. No need to wait 14 days until the sprint review to release the software. The fastest teams in larger companies and smaller companies, they can release daily hundreds of times. And that's because they have infrastructure that embraces continuous delivery. So you optimize, and why do you do that? You optimize for speed of feedback, because as a product development team, you want to get this feedback from your users to verify if you built the right feature. Because as I said, that's what's all about. We have hypotheses, what a feature is on for the user, and we want to verify if we built the right feature for the user. And we can only do that when we deliver that feature to the user. And so the time for delivery to the user has to be the smallest as possible. You cannot gain speed if there's another department which does analysis and specification first, or product discovery first. It has to be done at the same time from the same team. Next is product discovery and delivery. And we should, first of all, talk about what is that on. And product discovery is exploration and validation. And we see a lot of companies where they separate product discovery and delivery. So there's a delivery team who does the software development, and there's a discovery team who does the software discovery. And both are separated departments. And in an ideal world where you could benefit from shift left, product discovery and delivery is integrated into the team. It happens at the same time, all the time with the same team. So you use lean tools and different techniques like design thinking, jobs to be done, impact mapping, empathy mapping, lean and value proposition canvas. So small and lean tools that are used by your team and are not used by different departments. So the idea is to have a lean and small discovery phase to deliver and release small features to get direct feedback from the users. That's what's all about. So there's no big upfront discovery, and you should look at your organization if you have this separated things like a separated discovery team and a separated delivery team. You should avoid that at all costs from my point of view, right? And then there's a recommendation everybody is talking about today. It's about team topologies. And Team Topologies is a book and concepts about organizing business and technology teams for fast flow. So the book and the concept itself, they give us a vocabulary about types of teams where mental load will be low in each team. So it's really important that you structure your teams to have low mental load so that the work can flow in a fast way through these teams. Team topologies differentiates between different team types. It's like stream-aligned teams, they are called enabling teams, complicated subsystem teams, and platform teams. And each team has a different direction and a different purpose. And the idea on reducing mental load by using only these Can you hear me again? Okay. Okay, sorry, there was a break. Okay, so the idea of, pardon? Okay, thank you. So the idea of team topologies is to give us a vocabulary about different team types and about reducing mental load. And the idea on reducing mental load by using only these 4 types of teams, this will give you an advantage, especially if several teams are working on a larger system or product. The cool thing about team topologies is that it follows the DevOps culture and the meaning of Conway's law. If you haven't heard of Conway's law means organizations design systems that are mimicking the organization's communication structure. So even if you're not responsible for structuring the teams, you should read the seminal work and influence your organization to restructure according to the ideas of these team types. I really recommend that, and you should read this book and get this book because it's such a seminal work on how to organize teams for fast flow. And maybe, and that's why we nearly come to the end of this talk and go into the interactive part. The main question is, why should you as a product owner or product manager steer this holistic change? We learned a lot about the systems infrastructure. We learned a lot about the code level, what should be optimized. We heard about security, about team structures, about delivery pipelines, automated testing, observability, and other things. So you may ask, why the hell should you as a product owner be responsible for this holistic change? Just think about it some seconds. And I bet the answer is really, really easy. If you look at the Scrum guide, It's about maximizing the value of the product. Well, it's your duty to maximize the value of the product. And to achieve that, you should help the organization, and together with your allies like the Scrum Master, the development team, you should help the organization to create the right environment where your product can thrive. Because it's not only about the right features for the users, but also to develop those features in the right environment. You can't deliver those features if your environment breaks you, if your environment delays you, so that you can't deliver those features to the users. So you are at the center of a movement that should influence middle and top management to restructure your organization, the communication workflow in your organization, and the technical environment, so that you as a product development team can deliver the maximum value for your users in the shortest time possible, right? And well, basically, that's the main message here in my talk. And if we want, I will fire up the chat and give you a link to the Miro board, where we can collect some questions and dive deeper into some of your questions. I will send you the link right now. Here you have it in the chat. Just moving some windows. Yes, I will. I have to resize the window a little bit. Just give me a second. And I will make another. Just searching the Miro board. No.
While we wait for Björn to share the Miro board, don't forget that you can, if you like this stream, you can like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel a lot.
And you can just come onto the Miro board, and then we will collect some of the questions. Just hop on the board. There's one visiting, yeah. And you can just grab a post-it or create a new post-it and put your questions here. And then we can see where we should do a deep dive and to discuss further. Just give us 3 more minutes or 2 more minutes.
Remember that you can always ask questions here on the YouTube chat, and I can bring them to the workshop and bring them to participants and to Björn himself.
So I think, Vasco, in the meantime, when the people are thinking about questions, I would start with the first question now. Where would you start with helping POs understand and take advantage of shift left? Well, the main thing is that the usual certification program you get at the Scrum Alliance or scrum.org doesn't give you some kind of technical points and how all those things work. And within our product owner training courses, and when working with the product owners at our customers, when we work with them, mostly we see that the product owner says, oh, well, technical things, code things, security, well, that's up to the team. That's not my garden here, because I'm responsible for ideating the features and driving the direction of the product. And from my point of view, I think it's really necessary that the product owner, product manager, gets a glimpse into how technical things work there. In our training program, we have a module where we train the product owners stuff about technical things like Conway's law, like microservice architecture, but also on a high level. So a product owner should not program and should not write code lines, right? But the product owner has to know about all those technical things and all those organizational things and how they are interlinked together, so that he understands what has to change in his own organization in order to deliver better features to the users. And my recommendation would be to start right at the beginning. So the product owner should be coached not only by the Scrum Master, because the Scrum Master's duty is also to coach the product owner about the Scrum process, but the product owner should be also coached by the team and should observe how the organization is built, where he is working in, and try to improve together with some allies he searches for, like his boss or like other product owners, like developers, to improve the organization itself, so that he can focus on providing the best value in the product itself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 The first thing is the product owner has to observe if there are any impediments that impede him to develop features in a fast way. And it's just by bringing it on the table and talking with all the stakeholders about these things, so that when he, together with the development team, observes these things, I think he has to bring it onto the table with the stakeholders in order to improve parts, for example, of the organization, parts of the infrastructure workflow, parts of the delivery pipelines, in order to optimize that. And mostly I see product owners who are just blindsided, and they only say, oh, no, I don't want to talk about technical things. I just want to concentrate about providing the maximized value with the features. But in order to provide these features, you have to optimize the organization itself. And so you can't get this with any standard certification training program out there, right? So, but Vasco, as you said, you talk a lot about security stuff with your customers. Do you want to share any tips how you bring that to the table? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Sometimes you can use non-functional requirements during the concept phase when you do some kind of user story mapping, or use other techniques. You can bring those things onto the table as non-functional requirements. But if you look at development techniques, from our point of view, we discuss this at the earliest moment as possible. So when we hop onto a project, we observe the whole environment, we look at the company, we look at the structure, and then we try to discuss everything with the right stakeholders in order to improve those systems, because we tell them, if you don't improve, for example, the way your delivery pipeline works, if you don't move into continuous delivery pipeline, automated delivery, you lose speed, for example. Or if you have other companies where product discovery is a separated department, then we suggest this company, okay, please give us one person from this department and let them hop into permanently into the product development team, so that we can talk daily with him or her about the discovery thing, so that we move everything together. And that's not easy. And especially you have to do this continuously. And sometimes you can't change those things, because if you think of a 10,000 person company, you don't shift left the whole company itself, right? So it's a tough task, and you have to continuously work towards improving the whole environment, not only improving the small team you're into it. You have to look at all the surroundings and all the boundaries you identify. Okay, I see a second question. How do you make sure that a PO with tech awareness knowledge does not then try to dictate the how? Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question, because the product owner should not dictate the how, but the product owner should sense what's possible in a technological way. So, for example, he should not tell the team, oh, you have to use this with Kubernetes and try those Helm charts and stuff like that. The product owner should know what is possible when we base our product on microservices. So that's the main differentiation. It's about training and coaching the product owner that he will get some advantages if he gets and learns some knowledge about technology, but he should not dictate the how and to the team, to the developers. And I think there's a danger if the product owner has been a developer before and he can't let loose of the development phase. Then it's sometimes a difficult thing, but most of the product owners I have seen, they don't come from a development perspective, and it's just about leveling up their development know-how, or their a little bit of a tech oversight, so that they can improve their product development there. But Luis, if you are here, just open the mic and just tell about your experience.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, yeah. My company is the inverse what you're saying. Most of the product owners were in a given point of their life, the developers or tech leads of development teams. So, uh, well, we have been transitioning to that mindset, and many of them have done it successfully, but there are some that still stick and trying to dictate and tell the team, you need to do this in this and that way, right? And that's what I like what you're saying, because yes, we in my company, uh, we have those technique teams. There are
Mm-hmm.
some still that we call it like technical depth of some stuff that are not functional, right? But they still need to be done. And unless that is significantly big, the pro owner is not involved. He's aware that they are happening,
Yeah.
but he's not involved in the execution. Actually, what we do is like in the planning, we reserve a specific block of time to say this is for us to make sure that we are paying our technical debt, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and this most of the part is for the pro owner to use for developing functions, right, features. But that's how we manage. But yes, we have in this moment, we have with a pro owner that issue, like the person is reluctant to step back and act as a pro owner and tries to be the technical leader of the team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think that's a difficult situation. Just on the one side, you want that product owner knows about things like you mentioned a technical debt, and that it's a good idea to reduce technical debt continuously. That's why we have some things like continuous refactoring and other paradigms inside development. And on the other hand, you don't want that the product owner um, does dictate the how and the solution, the technical solution, especially if the product owner comes from a technical point of view. And I think it's just possible with continuous observation, with training and coaching, and maybe you could use a retrospective and make a main topic in the retrospective. How can we as a team work in a great way together, and so that the developers can focus on the technical points of view, and that the product owner supports them, and the other way around, that the product owner will be supported by the team, so that it's not some kind of silos or some kind of just bad discussions, but more of some kind of teamwork, right?
Right.
Great, thank you. So if there are any further questions, just grab a post-it and put it on. Otherwise, Vasco, I would suggest that the 2 or 3 minutes we have a quarter before, we could close the session if there are any questions.
Maybe one thing to add here, it was touched on a little bit. We were talking a lot about product owners, and one of the things that I have at least had some experience with is, for example, involving development in the discovery work, right? That's one another way to shift left, and this is actually a great help for product owners, because product owners don't necessarily, and don't, that's just natural, it's nothing wrong, they don't necessarily have the ability to come up with technical innovation, right? They might not be experts in the technology. In some cases they are, in other cases they aren't, but the teams, the development and developers and testers, they are experts in the technology, and they can come up with concepts, ideas that the product owner would not be able to come up with. And you talked about this phasing of software development, which is kind of an anti-pattern these days with the agile adoption.
It is.
But specifically on the aspect of discovery, I think this is a very important contribution. Not all developers want to do it, but some developers do want to be involved in customer interviews and early customer need analysis,
you have to
jobs
do it.
to be done analysis, and so on. And how have been your experiences with doing more of that, like bringing development more into the discovery part of the projects?
Yeah, it's. I think it's hard. In our company at Mayflower, our developers want to understand what's the business model of our customer, where we built the product for, what's the need for, and oftentimes we are in customer environments where the developers of the customer are not keen on doing customer interviews or end user interviews, are not keen on doing any research. They just want to write code lines. And I think we have to advocate in the community and also in the developer community that a professional software developer does not only code lines of code, but he also has to understand the surrounding. He has to understand what is the feature built for, or who is the feature built for. So what's the user, what's the purpose of the feature, and what's the direct feedback of the user. And if you experience that developers are just hiding behind their code lines, I think as a
Or
Scrum
being
Master,
pushed away.
and
That can also,
when you are
or
organizing
being
the
pushed
teams,
away, right? Because that can also
yeah,
happen, that they are not
yeah,
allowed to talk to customers.
yeah, but they should. They should. I really advise C-level, middle management, and every other managers, please remove those proxy systems between the developers and the end users. And sometimes, which is not bad for, which is not good for product owners, sometimes you could also say, remove the product owner out there to get the developers in close contact with the customers. There's a great YouTube video from a Nordic company. They were building a mobile prototype for the sunglass hood company, which where you can buy sunglasses. And this video is really motivating because the developers are going into those retail stores with their iMacs, and they are doing the customer interviews. They have whiteboards there where they pinpoint with post-its their feature ideas and things like that. And this is real development work, so that you really see what the customer wants and you really get the feedback. That's like doing a unit test. Unit test is on the technical side. You get the feedback from the machine. The test is right or the test is wrong. And the same goes for talking to customers. And I really advise every C-level and middle managers, please bring your developers to the end customers to get the feedback as early as possible. Right. So is there any other question in the YouTube chat?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So thank you for being here. And I will just give you this one. If you would like to talk further, I am in the Slack community available. You can also connect with me at LinkedIn. And I hope you got some ideas how to improve your development organization inside your company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Björn. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for sharing all of that knowledge with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And we are on our break. We have about 10 minutes before we join the next session. So I'll definitely be here in a few minutes. Take my break now, and I'll see you soon. So see you soon. And everybody, oh, there we go. I'm back out from my coffee break. Everything is back to normal now, and the stream will proceed shortly with, of course, our next workshop, which will be the remote meetings workshop with Chris Stone. Looking forward to this. Let's take a quick look at what he promises us rather with this workshop. So he's talking about transforming remote meetings into experiences, and the three takeaways he promises is celebrating the microculture of the audience, learn what matters to them, and tailor the experience accordingly. Build it and they will come. Build ways of working with teams, co-creating how meetings take place, and continuous evolution. Ensure feedback loops are built in to ensure meetings don't just become part of the furniture. Meetings themselves should be continuously improved. And I see that Chris is already online. So let me change the Zoom meeting room. There we go. All right, and we have Chris already here in the workshop. Hey, Chris. And I guess I should say good evening to you, right?
Time.
All right, so 6 p.m. in the UK. How's the weather there? I imagine it's raining as usual.
That's miserable, Vasco. Absolutely awful. To be honest, we've had a really good year weather-wise, and this past 3 or 4 days, it's just been pouring down. So it's almost like we're overdue the bad weather.
Yeah, well, I can definitely feel empathy for you guys there. We have started the fall, the dark and rainy fall weather here in Helsinki. It's not yet cold, so the cold part hasn't arrived yet. But as they say, winter is coming.
Winter is coming. Winter is coming.
So for our YouTube audience, Chris, can you give us a very short intro into what we can expect from today's workshop?
Well, today's workshop is all about turning meetings into experiences. So rather than just being these dull, things that are part of our furniture that we attend all the time, that we're trying to turn them into something a bit more life, with color, with enjoyment to them. So we end up looking forward to them more than dreading them, right? We spend a third of our waking hours at work, and we owe it to ourselves to at least try and enjoy the experiences. So my session is all about that. There'll be a bit of choose your own adventure element to it as well. It's quite interactive. But yeah, it should be fun.
I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about how to make that 1/3 of our 1/3, right? Well, sometimes it's more than half, and sometimes it's even the whole day of meetings. So I hope we can hear some good tips and ideas on how to make those meetings more enjoyable. I do like that that goal, that bar that you set for us today. Make your meetings more enjoyable.
I don't feel like it's a difficult bar to achieve either. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to at least try. And I've got some ideas as to how we can do that. I've particularly played a lot of focus on retrospectives over the years, but it doesn't have to just be about retrospectives. There's lots of ways of doing it in other meetings, other common meetings in our diary as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely looking forward to what you can bring and also what the audience can bring.
Absolutely. I'd love to harvest the collective brain power of some of the audience as well and see what ideas they have with regards to bringing some more life to meetings. So I will definitely be looking to leverage their skills, their knowledge, their creativity too.
But by the way, this is a live session, of course, as it is. Yeah, I mean, we're live on YouTube as well. So what prompted you to propose a live session for this year's Agile Online Summit instead of what I would expect from most people to propose a recorded talk?
To be honest, I hate just talking in a one-way. It just feels so passive to me. So even when I'm on stage at a conference, I try and engage the audience somehow. I'll have them holding physical cards so they can tell me the direction and what's going on. And I hate just talking at people. So live interactive sessions are what I enjoy. And I find people enjoy them more also, rather than just this discourse where they're being told information. I'd rather engage my audience.
I guess that's already one of the tips, right?
There we go. You will spot
Absolutely.
throughout how I deliver today. Lots of tips and tricks as to how I involve the audience.
Absolutely. So yeah, so the floor is yours. So I know we're still waiting for people to join, and looking forward to the workshop.
Sounds great. I'm just going to share a Miro link into the chat so that others can use.
By the way, you can see the waiting room now, right?
I can't see the waiting room yet. Shall I admit people? Shall we bring them in?
Yeah, that's up to you. You're the host, so
all right, let's do this.
follow.
Let's admit everyone in.
Hey everybody, welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are.
People are starting to filter through. There we go. You see it,
Hey,
Chris
Chris.
Garvey.
With a Ghostbusters
Hello.
t-shirt. I like that.
Oh, Chris was online yesterday.
Right by Halloween, so Ghostbusters feels very, very relevant right now. Right, we'll give it a couple more minutes for people to filter through. For those of you that have arrived, jump your way into the Zoom chat and you will see a Miro board. And that is what we'll be doing today's session at the Agile Online Summit. I hate just talking at people, so I'd love people to interact with me throughout the session today.
And by the way, if you haven't yet, you should listen to Chris's episodes on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago now. I appeared on the podcast, wasn't it, Vasco?
It's been a while.
Wow. I'm going to turn off the waiting room as well now, so people can just arrive. There we go. Right, I can see people starting to appear. So we have an echo there. Just make money to meet you. Okay. There we go. No echo. Right, so folks, you have landed in my talk this evening at the Agile Online Summit. It's all about remote meetings and how to make them a bit more engaging, turning them from meetings to experiences. We will be doing the session this evening using a Miro board. I will paste that link inside the chat once more, and do join me on that. For those of you that have, for whatever reason, unable to access that board, I will share my screen also so that you can follow along. Now, first things first, we've got about 50 minutes together today. And I'd like to explain why even bother turning meeting into experiences. This is the agenda. So we're going to start with why. We're going to empower you, the audience, to choose your own adventure. A bit like those books I used to read when I was younger, where I'd have a hero and it would basically, we'd make a bit of a narrative and tell me about the hero. And then it'd say, hey, Chris, turn to page 297 if you want to choose this direction. Now I'd turn to that page and find out my character had died. And I'd be like, no, I didn't do that. And I'd go back to the previous page. It's like that today. I'd like you to choose the direction of this talk. We will then actually put something into practice. We're going to practice turning a common meeting into an experience. And then we'll reflect on some of the lessons, the tips, tricks and tools that you might use back in the workplace. You turn meetings into experiences. Now, again, I hate just talking at people, so do interact with me throughout. You can use any of the Zoom chat functions to drag my attention towards you. You can post it on the board. You can speak aloud if you're feeling brave enough. So do bear that in mind. For anyone who hasn't used Miro before, just make sure you've got the little blue icon on the left-hand side here selected on the navigation panel. Will allow you to interact with this board. For the most part, you'll just need to be able to drag and click or double click inside a post-it note to interact this evening. Of course, if you have any questions, just ask them throughout. So first things first, question for you folks. The way you're going to answer this question is by grabbing one of these little icons, little timer icons here, and dragging them onto the scale above. The question is, how much of your time do you spend in meetings? From hand side 0% to the right hand side 100%. Again, make sure you've got that little blue icon selected on your board there. We are here on the Miro board, by the way, for anyone who isn't there yet. grab one of those icons and share with me how much of your time you spend in meetings on a weekly basis, all the way from 0 to 100%. Just temperature gauge what our experiences are in the room. Again, if you prefer to speak aloud, feel free to share your experience. It doesn't have to be just on the board. Okay, so in general at the moment, it's somewhere between the 25 and 75% range. No one is lucky enough to have 0 meetings a week. No one is unfortunate enough to have 100% of their time in meetings. Glad to hear that, but when I have done this exercise before, it has been, some people have been close to that scale. So we spend a lot of time in meetings. How about how meetings are for you? So the next questions is meetings are on the left-hand side of the scale here, boring, or I love them. And you can share your view by dragging these little post-it guys onto the scale. Once you've done that, you've got another question, another scale here, where meetings are a waste of time. So again, this is your own perspective. What are meetings for you? Again, we're quite in the middle of the scale. They're in between, maybe erring toward the side of boring and middling, shall we say, between waste of time and valuable. Person saying they're very valuable. Yeah. All right, now, my one word to describe meetings is, this is where you double click on these post-it notes and type inside them. So to share a few words or one word to describe what meetings are from your experience. And then the next question is, I'd like you to think of the best meeting you're ever involved in and what made it so. So again, you can share by adding your thoughts to these post-it notes here. Or if you prefer to do so, type inside the Zoom chat. Chris, the meetings you run are amazing for you. Yes, there is a mirror link. Let me share once more. There we go. In the chat. So someone said meetings are stressful, time-consuming, political, very true. Information radius, yeah, we hope so. It can be very time-consuming, if not one well. They're demanding. Someone said they're fun. So hopefully that person's going to facilitator. It can be low participation in meetings, yes. They can result in less waste. A meeting is essentially a feedback loop that maybe we should learn from others and alter your approach accordingly. It's what Agile brings about, lots of feedback loops for learning. Yeah, there are opportunities to share ideas. Okay, and then the best meetings, they were resulted in outcomes. There was vulnerability and authenticity, working together. Some good attributes of great meetings. Engaging. There was a clear agenda. Yeah, there was a purpose to the meeting. How many of you, just raise your hand in the Zoom chat or speak aloud. How many of you have been in a meeting that has no agenda whatsoever and you just turn up because you've been invited? Yeah, hands up. I've got a default rule, right? If there's no agenda in a meeting, I won't attend, or at least question why I've been invited to this meeting. Because if there's no purpose as to a meeting, then it's very likely it could be a waste of time. Okay, so there was focus on the issue at hand. There was clear goals. It had a time box. It had an agenda with objectives. It was fun. There was connection. Lots of good things about great meetings. Great. So we have, through a bit of ice breaking, through a bit of crowdsourcing, we've learned that we spend a good chunk of our time in meetings. In general, most of them are they're erring towards being boring. They're somewhat useful depending on how they're run, and we've got lots of different perspectives as to how meetings actually are on an individual basis. So let's come to the why now. Why should we make meetings into experiences? So we spend pretty much a third of our waking lives working, right? We should at least try and enjoy the experience. We spend so much time at work, we owe it to ourselves to try and make an enjoyable experience. As we then reflect on a third of our waking lives are in meetings, and anything between 25 and 75% of our time is lives is at work, and then anything between 25 and 75% of a third is then in meetings. It's a lot of time. Now, there's a lot of research out there on engagements and happier employees being more productive. So I've pointed towards a bit of research there from Warwick University. There was a study on happiness and productivity, which said that basically research from Google and otherwise have suggested that employees are up to 37% more productive when they are happier. They're more engaged. They're less likely to leave the company, enjoy the experience. So there's a couple of bits of research supporting why meetings should be enjoyable, or at least why work should be enjoyable. I'm going to share some stories with you. Hopefully you can see on my screen a couple of pictures here. We've got Queen, Freddie Mercury, the infamous Freddie Mercury. So once upon a time, as a Scrum Master, I was tasked with running a retrospective. This is what I'm most known for in the Agile world, creating different ways of running retrospectives and meetings. And I was tired of the standard stop, start, continue, sad, mad, glad formats that dominated the world. They were very repetitive and stale, and I felt like my audience were disconnected as well. And I was looking for a better way of doing things. And I remember using my favorite resource at the time, tastycupcakes.org, and I found upon it the Elvis retrospective. If anyone's unfamiliar with the Elvis retrospective, it uses the Elvis discography to prompt and generate insight. So it'll be like, don't step on my blue suede shoes. What shouldn't we be stepping on as a team? Or it basically uses the Elvis song. A little less conversation, a little more action. Where could we do more action and less talking? I loved it. I thought it was great. And I tried it with a team and it was more engaging than they'd ever been. So I thought, okay, that was the king of retrospectives, Elvis being the king of rock and roll. I'm going to create the Queen. So Queen, the rock band, the retrospective was born. So rather than saying to a team, hey, what should we continue doing as a team? You say, don't stop me now. And you play the song in the background as people are thinking. And it's about what should we do? What are we doing well as a team? What should we absolutely keep doing? What should we not stop doing as a team? Or under pressure, and you're playing the David Bowie version, of course. What's putting us under pressure as a team? What's causing us unnecessary stress? And you're prompting and generating insights in a slightly different way. If you ask the same questions over and over, you probably start to get stale answers over and over. Now, using this retro with a team, with the free show, I shared this around the world. Lots of other people started using it as well. And some of the stories I've had have really been heartening. Someone told me that they used it with a program team who had a very serious program manager who never smiled and was all work focused. And we did that, they did that retrospective, and that program manager smiled. He admitted he loved Queen. He was more engaged than he'd ever been in the meeting. And he had fun with it. I thought that was beautiful. So that was the starting point for me. I created Queen, the retrospective, and then I began creating more and more. And now I've got almost hundreds freely accessible retro templates on my website. Everything from The Matrix to Queen to Daft Punk to 5 dysfunctions of a team. There are so many ways you can turn a retrospective into an experience by engaging the senses, by celebrating the microcultures we have in a team. Every team is comprised of individuals with likes and dislikes, passions and interests. There's a reason that the movies and TV and video games and book industries have been $billions a year, because humans love escapism. We love enjoying things. So by harnessing and leveraging those microcultures, those passions, we can turn a meeting into something more enjoyable. And people end up looking forward to it rather than dreading it. Now, it doesn't have to be just retrospectives. This is an example of a town hall that I facilitated with hundreds of people. And essentially it was a snow day theme. And I turned up to this meeting in full-on skiing gear. So I had a ski onesie with a helmet and goggles. And I was basically the ski instructor for the day. And I guided people around our virtual equivalent of the Alps. So we had a bit of a base camp where we started and we heard from the leadership team. And then we went into a bit about employee voice, over toward a spotlight on the IT service management team. We had a bit of an icebreaker where people were slaloming a little, skiing people down a screen and sharing what their experiences were or how they were feeling at that time as a bit of an icebreaker and a warm-up. There was a piece map where you can navigate around, and there was a bit towards, you can't see this on this screen, but there was a bit on the other side, which was called the pain avalanche. And the pain avalanche was basically, imagine lots of little post-it notes, white post-it notes flowing down the side of this mountain. And that was just a way of capturing, hey, where are you most struggling as a team? Or where are you most struggling? What's blocking you from being successful? That was just a way of radiating to the company, here's where we're struggling, help us please. So it was a great way of capturing feedback. We turned this town hall, which is often a passive one-way leadership and telling you information into an interactive session people remembered. And the next one was one around this island theme, and there was one around rolling around a house in Amsterdam. There was really random themes, right? But it meant people looked forward to it, they engaged, they enjoyed the experience. I can see there's some chats, which I'm going to finish quickly. Annoyingly, I'll tell you what, so someone's commented in the chat, I hope it was not summer when you had to get into that attire. It was April, and it was unseasonably warm April in the UK. I regretted my decision to do it. It was at the end of the skiing season. I regretted my decision when I was sweating inside my skiing gear. It wasn't summer, I wasn't that foolish, but it was warmer than I would have liked it to be. And I'm someone who runs quite hot-blooded anyway. I can walk around in t-shirt and flip-flops most times of the year. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm sharing just a bit of feedback from others about using themed or creating experiences for people. So not all of it's perfect. There's a red one in the middle that I'll highlight. And this was someone who'd used the Home Alone retrospective. It was close to Christmas, and I created one around Home Alone, a famous Macaulay Culkin film. And in that retrospective, one of the questions is, keep the change, you filthy animal. What should we be keeping the change about how we work? What should we throw away? What don't we like, right? So same outcome as asking what didn't work well for us as a team. Now, that Scrum Master in particular used that retro with two different teams. One of them loved it. The other one person said, hey, this retro board wasn't for me. And that's okay, right? It happens. What you create won't resonate with everyone. And I would encourage you to approach maybe the person in private and just check in with them, make sure they're okay, understand why they're not resonating with it. One of the techniques and tips I advise you to do is create these things with your team rather than inflict it upon them. So they have a say in it, they're co-creating it and part of the journey, and that can help with resistance. But the 99% of the feedback I get is positive. People telling me they've used a Star Wars retro and it was really engaging. The Diwali theme retrospective had quieter voices from India, more engaged than they've ever been. The Bond retrospective, where they were struggling to get people talking, had people doing so more than ever. There are so many ways you can do this that result in better outcomes and enjoying the experience. Okay, so there's a few stories for you there for you about success side of things. Now, conscious of time, I would like to move into practicing now. So let's practice creating a retrospective, or not a retrospective, but a meeting. Let's practice turning a meeting into an experience. So what I'd like you to do is help me by choosing which one we should turn into an experience. There are three commonly known Agile ceremonies here: the retrospective, the daily sync, or the sprint review. You can vote by dragging the little post-it guys upon them. The one that gets the most votes is where we'll start. If we have time, we'll cover two of them. And what we're going to do is just practice doing so, turning a commonly known meeting into an experience so that you can then leverage that creativity, that practice with the teams that you work with. It's looking like the daily sync might be a winner at the moment. So going to give it another 15, 20 seconds or so for you to get your votes in, and then we'll head in that direction. Whilst you're doing that, there is to the right an option for you to share what you're passionate about. This is me now starting to learn what this microculture is, because that's the theme we're going to use to create a new daily sync theme around. So, right, it looks like daily sync is the winner. Come over to here and share what you're passionate about. Once we've got an idea as to what we're passionate about, we're going to collectively vote on the theme we want to create something daily sync-wise from. Family, basketball, customer value, music, House of the Dragon. Yeah, that would be a great daily sync. Video games, road running. All right, lots of options. Bouldering. I went bouldering last night, by the way. Someone's passionate about Simon Sinek. You should tell them that. I'm sure he'll love that. Cats. That person is after my own heart. If I could have a cat-themed daily sync, that would be outstanding. Okay, we've got lots of ideas now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a vote. I'm going to give you another, let's see, people are still typing. I'm going to give you another 15, 20 seconds, and then I'm going to kick off a vote, and we can vote on the idea here that we most want to create a new daily sync theme around. Someone's a Springboks fan, love it. Grilling are we talking food, meat? All right, listen. Barbecuing, grilling food. There we go. Grilling. My mind was going to, like, some people have grills in their teeth. Some people have grills in the front of their cars. Some people have, they just enjoy grilling people in interviews. Right. Okay. Time for a vote. So I'm going to kick off a vote. You will have 3 votes each, just on these sticky notes. You have 2 minutes. Get those votes in. Has that appeared for you folks? So someone give me a thumbs up so I can see the voting has started. Good. Okay. Vote for that sticky note that you most want to create a new theme from. Just going to check in with the chat. Okay. For anyone wondering, yes, links to my website, I will share those at the end. Just over a minute left to get your votes in on the theme you most want to create around daily syncs. Say daily sync, by the way, because I've stopped using the word stand up because it's not as inclusive as it could be. So when I say daily sync, I mean that opportunity to the team where you join together and you reflect on how things are going and what you're going to do next as a team to achieve your goals. Seconds left now, and then we'll see how the votes have come out. What are we feeling? What do we think is going to win? Are we going to get grilling food? Are we going to get removing impediments? Dragons? It's a very niche theme, dragons. Five, four, three. Okay, what's one? Hasn't told me. Has the Miro voting functionality broken? There we go. Something's happened. Did it work? Results. Oh, it's still processing. Traveling. So traveling 1, followed by board games. Business was 3rd. Family as well. So traveling. We're going to create a traveling themed stand-up or daily sync. I'm just going to, before we do that, I'm just going to draw your attention to something. This is a technique that I use before creating something thematic, a meeting or experience with people. So I use the wall of us. When I work with teams, I'm a big believer in icebreakers. And I use icebreakers to learn about people because humans are not just avatars on a screen. We're not just names CG for Chris Garvey. We are humans behind our laptops. We're beating hearts with passions, likes, and dislikes. And I like to use icebreakers to remind people that we are humans and it doesn't have to all be about work all the time. By using icebreakers, we learn about people. We learn about what they enjoy. I was working with a team in Mexico who were very work focused. They've been together for years, and I was asked to work with them. They were struggling with a few things. And one of the things I introduced was icebreakers. And it was just silly questions that they could choose the day of the question of the day. And one of them was about video games. And we learned very quickly that 2 people on the same team love the same video game. They arranged to play that game together that evening. And it strengthened their relationship drastically in a way that wouldn't have happened without making time for human interaction. But it also helped us uncover that in general, the team loved video games. And therefore, we ended up having themed days where you had Zoom crowns all around a certain video game and themed retrospectives around video games. We learned what their microculture was, and that gave us the information to be able to turn their meetings into experiences. So I encourage you to do the same. If you're working with teams, use icebreakers, focus on the human side, learn about the team, maybe create a space a bit like this where you can do a bit of a wall of us, where you learn what people's music tastes are and hobbies and otherwise. And from that, you can then use that as ammunition to create something that's experiential for them. Right. So we have chosen a daily sync. We're going to turn that into an experience. Before we start, here's a bit of inspiration for ways you can do it. So here is both a music-themed daily sync and a movie-themed daily sync. So rather than asking, hey, what are we working on today? Or where could I be helped? Or what blockers do I have? Or what did I do yesterday? If we were using music as a theme, we could be saying, hey, Edge of Glory by Lady Gaga. Where are we on the edge of glory? What could we finish? What could we get over the line if we work together? Or can't get you out of my head, Kylie Minogue. What shouldn't we be stopping thinking about? What should be our biggest priority right now? Well, we are the champions from Queen. I love using Queen as a reference. What successes do we want to share? What have I achieved yesterday? That's just a few musical examples. If we were doing movies, you could be saying, hey, Mischief Managed from Harry Potter. What did I get up to? What did I get done that others should be aware of? And what did I do, or what did we do that contributed towards our team's goal? Well, you can be my wingman anytime from Top Gun. Where do I need a wingman today, or woman? What could I do? Where could I do with some help to get something finished? Or you've got a friend in me from Toy Story. I'm available to help someone today who needs some support. Or Hakuna Matata. What's concerning us that we need to talk about? How could we move past it together? Right. So there's lots of ways of prompting things that still result in the team collectively the same outcome from a daily sync, which is inspecting, adapting at the most local level, how the team are doing and what they could do differently, how they could achieve their goal, but asking it in a thematic way, right? So there's some inspiration. And what we need to do now is our theme was traveling, right? So our theme is, I'm going to type that here. Now we're going to crowdsource the collective brain of this audience here. How could we use the theme of traveling to prompt people to inspect and adapt at the local level? How could we get them to think about their next goal? We get them to think about sharing progress. What I'd like you to do is just get some thoughts down on post-it notes here. We can then collaboratively work together and update them. So where do we need to go? So I'm almost thinking like there's a bit like a remind to what's our flight path? How will we get there? Yeah, so what's our flight path and how are we going to get there? Security check, yeah? Brilliant, security check. And I got packing checklist or something like that. I create a checklist when I'm packing my bag to make sure I don't forget anything. What's our Sahara now? Ooh, what's our Sahara Desert? What is stalling our takeoff? Yeah, what's holding us up progress-wise? I'm just going to add to that. Any bad weather ahead that's going to get in our way? Yeah. What else do we think about when we're traveling? We create a traveling playlist. We got road trip plans, our shore stops. We've got, do we have our passport check? What dangerous items we have on us? Yeah, what's getting on our way? Luggage, okay. What about some of the fun elements of travel? What do we look forward to? Relaxing on the beach, yeah. Food we want to try. So now we've got lots of ideas, right? And what I would do, this is the crowdsourcing part, or this is the thinking part. I just grab a theme and I just get lots of ideas down. And then from that, I start to think, right, how could I turn that into a prompt, a simple question that the team can ask one another to focus on the outcome of a daily sync, which is knowledge sharing, collaboration, shared understanding, and maybe pivoting towards our goals, right? So let's pick a few of these and try and turn them into prompts. So we've kind of got what's our flight path one. So for me, that's like, where are we headed? What's our destination? Where are we headed today? So there's one, right? There was a security check one. So what's dangerous? What dangerous items do we have on us? How could we turn that into a prompt that could help a team? It's not necessarily that the things are dangerous, but what do we need to ensure? How do we get through security checks safely? How do we get? I'm thinking security check almost becomes our definition of done. So how do we clear our definition of done successfully? What else have we got? Anything about knowledge sharing or needing help? So there's bad weather. Is that probably link that to something? Bad weather en route. What do we need to be on the lookout for? Are our bags packed? Have we done enough planning? Yeah. We've forgotten something. Keen checklist. How's the weather? Daisy going? But you can see how relatively easy it is. Just get some ideas down and start turning them into prompts. And then you go to a daily sync with your team. And the important thing is you don't inflict these questions upon your team. You provide options for them to choose. Which of these options makes sense for us and our context? And you empower the team to decide. Now, what I do is I provide these options, and I might choose a theme and I try and create maybe 10 of them. And then those options become theirs, and they might use them for a week or a couple of weeks and then try another couple of options. And rather than just asking the same, what did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? What blockers do I have? It mixes things up. It makes it a bit more interesting. Different answers come up. A very slight alteration, for example, on what blockers do I have is where could I be helped today? Because when someone says, or someone is asked, what blockers do I have? It tends to suggest some level of I'm struggling. I might be judged for struggling. I feel like I should be able to do this on my own. Whereas by flipping that around, saying, where could I be helped? It makes it seem easier to accept. And you might find people open up to things a bit more. So by changing the way we ask questions of each other, it can result in very different outcomes. And you can see how quick it was there to turn a theme for traveling into some prompted questions around travel that might result in different answers thematically. Now, again, you could, in these syncs, for example, for a few weeks, you could have a travel theme. You could have travel theme background. You could have beaches, you could have your favorite travel destination. You could use icebreakers and build into it to choose your next theme and have thematic things around it. It's very easy to do. Right, let's look at the other one. I think the second voted one was the sprint review. So let's try and do something with a sprint review. Coming to here now. So again, a bit of inspiration. Here's a couple of examples of what I've done with sprint reviews. So you could almost do a bit of a Cluedo theme where you say, hey, we killed the product. How did we do it? And you work backwards. And you use that reverse brainstorming technique of making something worse to identify how you can make things better. Obviously, a sprint review is all about sharing progress, capturing feedback, collaboratively making a plan as to how you can make that product better in the future. You could use Magic Lamp and you can invite your stakeholders to say, hey, we've got 3 wishes. What will we do with our 3 wishes with that product? And then you could work with the team to try and do that. And again, a bit of future spectrum. You could say, hey, what would an Amazon review say about our product if we took ourselves 3 months into the future? And again, work backwards from there. So would we like to choose a different theme this time? What was our second voted theme? It was family or cats. Should we do a cats one? That'll be interesting. So we've got a cat theme for a sprint review. How could we turn cats into a sprint review? Share your thoughts here. Let's just get some ideas down and see what we can come up with. All right, so pounce. All right, so what opportunities should we pounce upon? Mittens. Yes, love that phrase. Do you know what the one that's springing to mind right now? If anyone's a cat owner, you'll probably know you buy the cat a nice toy. It's expensive, comes in a box. It pays more attention to the box than they do the toy, right? Now, the parallel I can think of when it comes to products is we often focus on building shiny things that ultimately aren't what the customer wanted. So it's kind of what I'm thinking about here is, where are we focusing on the wrong thing? Where can we build more usability testing and things like that to make sure we're doing the right thing in, rather than just buying it or creating an expensive thing that's not going to get used? Thank you. Always land on their feet. Okay. What hurt us? Yeah. Okay. Playtime. Okay. Satisfaction. Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction brought it back. All right. So we've got something about customer satisfaction. So what my mind goes to, obviously, a sprint review. What can we do with our product? How can we make it better? What feedback can we take in? So curiosity for me in the context of a product is, well, what have we experimented with? What have we tried? Has it resulted in anything meaningful? Has it resulted in us learning anything? So maybe the curiosity killed the cat sort of thing is around, yeah, what have we tried and experimented with? We haven't satisfied our curiosity. Anyone else? Anyone can think of how we can turn any of those other ideas into prompts or things that we could do with our stakeholders? Scratches, what hurt us? Yeah, that, I guess there's something in there about wasn't helpful. Yeah. Kind of almost goes into the realms of retrospection, but in the context of a sprint review being something involving stakeholders, you could be saying, okay, what hurt us in the last iteration? How could we avoid that together in the future? The cucumber videos. For anyone who isn't aware, cats are apparently afraid of cucumbers. You put a cucumber behind a cat, they think it's a snake and they get terrified. I have a cat. I've never actually tested that on them. Maybe one for the near future.
That's something nobody thought they would be learning at the Agile Online Summit, how to scare cats.
Brilliant. So how do we respond to a situation where we think someone knows what they want, but actually they've changed their mind? So there we go. So there's 5 examples there, how we're taking a cat theme. And again, what I would do is I might host a workshop with stakeholders. I might have cats in the background, so make it look a bit thematic, have these questions. And increasingly what I would do is I'd involve the stakeholders in creating this sort of experience with them, rather than just it being my theme or the team's theme. Invite them as part of the journey and create it with them. Because I can imagine a situation where you go to a stakeholder meeting and share with them progress, and like, what's all the cats about? Christelle, thank you for that bit of feedback. It horrifies them and breaks my heart. I won't try that with Celeste. She's too pretty for that. Right, so we have 12 minutes left. I just want to very quickly harness the power of seeing what we can do. Given we've been quite rapid in building these, let's see how we can turn a theme into a retrospective. So the next highly rated one was family, right? Bringing yourself to here on the board. What ideas do you have to prompt the team to improve using the theme of family? Again, chuck your thoughts on these post-it notes and let's see if we can very quickly create family themed retrospective. This, by the way, is not in my collection of almost 100 retro templates. I've never done one about family. So you may be inspiring me. I could take this and this could be an Agile Online Summit special. Chuck your thoughts on these post-it notes. Let's see what we can come up with. You got your family fighting, family feuds. Sibling rivalry, yeah. This was like a sibling rivalry. Where are we working against one another? So there you go. There's almost a prompt around sibling rivalry. So much laundry. I'm not sure how I'm going to turn that into a prompt. Once that, come back to that in a moment. Plays together, stays together. Yeah, so can we play what? There you go. Family that plays together, stays together. How can we make more time for play? What would make us enjoy our work more? Could be building meetings like this. What disagreements do we have? Yeah, so something about disagreements. Disagreements are healthy. Looking at this now. How can we enable healthy conflict? What we want in a team is disagreement, but in a healthy way, because disagreement invites different perspectives, different ideas, and innovation. So I was thinking blood is thicker than water, but I was struggling to think how to turn that into a intro prompt. So we've got 3. We've got family meals, something about together time. We've kind of got family plays together. What would wise grandma tell us to solve this? Okay. What insights can we take externally? Something like that. By the way, if you've got ideas, if you can turn one of these into a prompt, just go for it. Don't wait for me to do so. There you go. So I've written down there, what insights can we take from the wider family? Where could another team help us? So how can we leverage the skills of others where we're struggling? I'm often advocating things like pair ceremonies. So rather than just doing pair programming, you could join another team's meetings and learn how they do things and benefit, and they could join yours and vice versa. I find that's a great way of building collaboration, but just spotting things that might help your team, because it can be very easy to get blinkered and stuck in your own ways of working, and that can help you escape your environment. Okay, right. So we've basically, in this time frame, we've had a bit of a play at creating a retrospective. We've had a bit of a play at creating a daily sync with a theme of traveling. We've had an interesting one of turning a cat-themed sprint review. What I'd like to do is just wrap up. We've got 8 minutes left before this Zoom panel disappears, or it doesn't disappear, but turns into a pumpkin as it's needed elsewhere. So I'm going to draw your attention to down here, just to recap on a few things. So what I'd love for you to take away from this session is celebrate those microcultures. Learn the passions and interests that your team have. Use icebreakers to do that, and build meetings and experiences that celebrate them rather than work against them. Okay? Co-create, so build it together and they will come. Rather than just inflicting meetings upon them, understand what they like and build it with them, and it will result in more engagement, them feeling part of it, again, inviting change and inflicting change. The last one I'll add is continuously evolve your meetings. I didn't really talk about this in a huge amount of detail, but I build it into every retrospective template that I create. And the bottom is a scale of return on time invested, essentially, that enables you to learn, right? Was this meeting a useful use of your time? Was it valuable? So often I find that meetings are created, they're put in diaries, often without agendas, and they just become part of the meeting furniture. They don't change, they're stuck there. And I believe in continuously evolving your ways of working. So you can do that by adding a bit of a return on time invested loop, a few minutes at the end of a meeting where you just check in with the team. Was this a good use of your time? You could do a fist of 5 scale, 0 to 5. This was a great use of my time. This was a poor use of my time. If you're scoring kind of the 2s and 3s, ask the questions. What would make it a better use of your time? How could this meeting be improved? What could make it more valuable for us? So continuously evolve your meetings. Now, it wouldn't be me without inviting feedback on this session itself. So I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching here. You will have seen, by the way, lots of tips and tricks that I use to make my meetings more engaging. So there's lots of scales, there's lots of pauses for interaction. There is inviting people to collaborate and respond in the way that they feel comfortable with, i.e. typing in Zoom chat on a Miro board or speaking aloud if they feel comfortable doing so. You will see lots of tips and tricks of how I facilitate meetings at scale. Now, the World Cup is fast approaching. England are in it. This way of feeding back, what you can do is type inside one of these little footballs. And if this meeting was, or this session at the Agile Online Summit was a good use of your time, then I'd like you to drag that little football into the goal, in ideally in one of the corners if it was a good use of your time. If it was a poor use of your time, it needs to be outside of the goal or the keeper because he saved it. All right. So type inside those little footballs and drag them onto the scale to let me know how this session was from your perspective. Again, just a reminder, if you feel it was a good use of your time, it should be in the goal away from the keeper to represent a goal has been scored. If it's a bad use of your time, it should be outside of the goal or at the keeper to show me that, hey, do better, Chris, do better. Type inside the little footballs and add your feedback as appropriate. And any feedback is welcome and appreciated. It will enable me to improve next time. And if anyone has any questions whilst you're adding feedback, feel free to add them. You have me for as long as the Zoom call is available.
So, Chris, I would have a question
related
related
to
it. How do you, when you think about involving stakeholders or the team in developing the different formats for the meetings, how do you get them engaged? Do you use the exact same approach you just showed us here, or how do you bring them on board?
In general, it's first of all, we need to acknowledge there's a problem. So using the scale like I did a bit earlier, how often are we spending in meetings? How often these useful use of time? And if we spot based on the consensus here, there's poor return on time invested, okay, we need to try something different. If we keep doing the same things over and over and expecting different results, that is the definition of insanity. So we've got to change a variable. So we start by acknowledging there's a problem. And then I use these sorts of techniques to invite people to be part of changing. How could we co-create a better meeting that's a more valuable use of our time? So what you have seen today is some of the techniques that I use. I use a lot of virtual whiteboards. I use a lot of silent reflection so people can contribute their thoughts individually first, to avoid dominant voices taking over, and then converging back as a group, voting on the most important thing, and then maybe creating an action from that or an experiment. And obviously, everything is an experiment. What you try doesn't necessarily have to be set in stone. So you might learn that, hey, the meeting's a bit boring. We agree as a group, we want to try something new. We try an experiment. The next meeting, we try that. And then again, you build the feedback loop in the end. How was that? Did it work? You amplify the things that work and you dampen the things that don't. And you try the next experiment. There's a question that came to me privately about this board, by the way. This board will persist. You can keep browsing around this board if you like. It's not going to disappear anywhere. So you can reuse this. Sorry, Vasco, you were saying?
I was just going to say that the approach of getting the people to participate by first starting to recognize the problem, I think that's very important, right? Like that would be the motivation. So taking that into account, I would say that it sounds to me that, for example, if people are kind of complaining about how boring the retrospectives are, this would be a good technique to use, right?
Completely. Any other questions anyone has? Sounds like we are good. So, oh, there's another thing that's come through. Managing audience, great for retros and daily syncs. Managing the audience engagement. So, keeping engagement levels. When I'm in meetings, I try to avoid talking at people. I mentioned this at the beginning, right? So I try to build in lots of interaction loops throughout, so that people are not passive. Because it's easy to start, especially in the virtual world, it's very easy to start micro focusing and, oh, I've got a next meeting to think about, or I've got a Slack message to respond to. So by building these sorts of techniques in, I keep the engagement up. I remind people that this is going to be a continuous conversation here, folks. We need you to be focused, and otherwise we're not going to get the best use of our time. Now, again, a thing I often refer to is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. If you've got a team and it's obvious that people aren't participating as much, one of the 5 dysfunctions of a team is not holding each other accountable. So we need to create a space where you can hold each other accountable and safely challenge, so that we are having active participation in things. And the reason I've increasingly recently been creating different ways of doing daily syncs is because of exactly that. So often I observe what happens is someone turns up, it's like a status report, they share their update, and then they switch off because everyone else's update isn't as relevant to them. And this happens in larger meetings as well, Scrum at scale, Scrum of Scrums, etc. You're just there to give your update, and you don't tend to care as much about everyone else's update, and it's easy to switch off and otherwise. So by mixing things up a little bit, it can, freshen things, avoid it becoming stale and repetitive, and something that you can disengage from. So there are no further questions.
I really like the idea of improving rather the daily syncs with this kind of formats, because my own experience is that when we go remote, they become even more boring than they used to be, and they become even more of a status report than they used to be.
Completely. So if we think about it in the past, you'd all be gathered around boards, actually standing up. The energy levels, it's easier to keep them higher. Whereas nowadays, you stand up at stand up.
Yeah, no Slack to interrupt you.
Yeah, exactly. You're all focused. You're away from your machine. Nowadays, we're at our machines. We're down, and it's repetitive and stale, and it's difficult to keep the engagement up. So, personal mission of mine is to try to bring fun to every meeting, bring engagement to every meeting. I've been working backwards from the ones we have. I began with retrospectives, and now I'm moving my creative talents towards other ceremonies as well. Now, the daily sync in particular is one that it's probably the most widely used meeting in the world, right? So it's probably the one that needs addressing most.
Totally.
Now, you might have a team that's passionate about cats, and they could have a cat-themed daily sync. That might work really well for them.
Or a football. I mean, the World Cup is just starting. Yeah.
The World Cup is just starting. There is a reason I built this feedback loop specifically, because the World Cup is topical, it's relevant. I created this this World Cup themed feedback loop specifically for this event. Okay, I think we're out of time. We're out of questions by the looks of it. Any ideas on engaging stakeholders during the review? I think, George, the same as I've described here. Acknowledge that there's a problem. Reassert why we have a sprint review. It's to identify where we're progressing and how we can improve our chances of success in the future with regards to the goal of the product, and inviting feedback in that process, and creating something with them that makes sense for their context. Now, you might wish to just experiment with some existing formats that are a bit less out there. So maybe not a cat themed sprint review, but maybe something like the Amazon review, or 3 wishes, and keep it simple. And then as things go, you might say, hey, right, let's create a brand new one that works for our context. I really appreciate everyone engaging with me today, and thank you for being part of my session at the Agile Online Summit. And thank you, Vasco, for hosting.
Absolutely. And Chris, thank you very much for suggesting this session and for being the host with us today. We appreciate your contribution to the community, of course, and this insightful experiences that you made us go through today. Thank you very much.
The one last thing I need to do is I promised some links. So I'm just going to paste those in the chat before we close off. Let me grab them for you. And otherwise, feel free to, there is, by the way, on the Miro boards, a section for that. You can click any of those. So follow me on LinkedIn. I'll share loads of my content for continuous improvement on there. I have an upcoming book coming up all about retrospectives called the Retrospective Playbook. There is a link to my website on there where I share all of my templates, all freely accessible. You don't even have to sign up. You can just download and plug and play them into whatever tool you have accessible. I have a YouTube channel, and like Vasco, I also have a podcast. It's not nearly as listened to as much though.
Do make sure to put the link to the podcast there on the chat so that people can go and check it out.
Shall do. It's trying to grab my links. Give me a moment. There we go. There we go. In the chat.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. It was a pleasure.
Thanks very much, folks. All the best.
All right, and we are at our break. In a couple of minutes, we'll be joining the Lean Coffee with the host of the Tools track, Faye Thompson, and I'll see you in a minute.
So we'll see.
All right, so here we go. We're live with the track host for the Tools track, Faye Thompson, and one of the presenters for today, Bevan Williams.
Got 3 other people joining us at the moment. If anybody is watching and you want to come talk about some of the concepts you heard today on the Tools track, please join us. There's you'll find in the Slack channel for the conference under Tools, you will find the link to register for this Lean Coffee. And welcome everyone. For everyone who is joined, I want to let everyone know you are currently live on YouTube. Surprise. And we're going to be facilitating this Lean Coffee conversation using Trello. So I've put a link in the chat to access the Trello board for the Tools track for this conference. We have one that we started using yesterday. We'll just keep using it today. But if you can make your way there, please let me know if you have any access issues, you're not able to get there. And while everyone is checking that out, why don't we take a minute to briefly introduce ourselves? I can start. My name is Faye Thompson. I'm an Agile consultant. I'm based in the United States in Columbus, Ohio. And I've been working consulting with companies for coming up on 20 years now. So Bevan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Faye. I'm Bevan. I am an Agile coach and trainer. I'm based in Cape Town in South Africa. It's a nice evening time here. And I've been in the Agile space for about 15 years, but very active in the community probably for the last 7 or 8 years or so. So yeah, quite happy to be here. I'll pass the baton over to Fred.
Thank you, Bevan. Fred, I'm in Grants Pass, Oregon, USA. It's West Coast. It's Southern Oregon, so not Portland, out in the forest. I've been working in Agile directly for probably 6 years, but on the outside for 10 years in software development. I'm a senior Scrum Master, leading a team of Scrum Masters and a bunch of software development teams.
Who would like to go next? Or yeah.
I see a couple of names. How about Brigham? Do you want to unmute and introduce yourself?
Hey there. I'm busy logging into Trello and getting all set. I've been a Scrum Master at a small software shop for 2 years. Been staying left there more last year, so I've been staying a lot. Also getting back into development. And as I do that, just staying on top of Agile and find a lot from mobbing and ensemble and other things, and just interested in what all's happening.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And Katerina, and I'm not sure if you're happy to come off mute and introduce yourself to the group. On that, but in the meantime, Vasco, for anyone who doesn't know Vasco, would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm part of the team organizing the Agile Online Summit. Very happy with the result of what we've put together. Very happy with the speakers that we've been able to attract and with the content they've shared with us. Myself, I work as an Agile coach with teams and organizations, trying to help them reach their goals in a way that they can first sustain a topic of this conference, right? And also to find the right tools, which of course makes sense to have in this track. And I was very, very curious about Colin Johnson's Death to the Roadmap, product roadmap that is. session. So I was hoping to see her here, but if not, I can anyway ask the questions because Faye was there. She listened to the talk very attentively, can share some of the insights with us. So I'm looking forward to discuss that.
Yes. I want to come back and ask Katerina to introduce herself. But in the first, I want to say welcome, Alberto. We're just getting set up. We are introducing ourselves, and we're going to be using Lean Coffee and facilitating that Lean Coffee discussion using a Trello board. So let me post the link in the chat again. Please access that board and let me know if you have any access issues. But in the meantime, Katerina, we'd love to hear more about you.
Sorry, my internet's not working properly. So hi, my name is Katka. I'm from Czech Republic. I'm Scrum Master for a small company. We are now in a process of merge with other company from Poland, also e-commerce.
Well, welcome. Excited to have everyone here today. And Alberto, I don't know if you were able to come off mute and introduce yourself to the group. And while you're doing that, I did want to remind everyone, or just make sure everyone heard, you are currently live on YouTube. So if that's not something you're interested in doing this afternoon, I just want you to be here and be informed of what's happening. So I'm not sure. Oh, okay, great. Alberto is based in Houston and yeah, in a shared space right now. So excellent. Thanks for letting us know. I see some people are accessing the Trello board. Let me know if you are unable to access that for any reason. But we're going to use Trello to facilitate this Lean Coffee conversation. So if anyone has not participated in a Lean Coffee before, it's an agenda-less meeting. So we don't have any preset agenda. We're going to choose topics that this specific group of people are interested in discussing. We're going to take some ideas here in a minute. We're going to vote on those ideas, and the most popular ideas will be where we start. And then you'll see we have a mechanism for kind of working through the conversation. We might end up staying on one topic the entire time. We might move through all of the topics. It's kind of wherever this group wants to take the conversation. So the way we participate is, if you see on the Trello board, we've got 3 columns: to discuss, discussing, and done. That we're going to make a backlog of ideas right here. So if you have a specific topic you'd like to discuss, go ahead and add a card in the to discuss column, 1 idea per card. And you can add as many as you like. It's whatever is appealing to you today, or you'd like to, whether you have, you'd like to comment on something, or you have a question about one of the speakers who are here, really anything at all. It's pretty wide open.
And if you have topics you want the group to discuss in the YouTube chat, you can drop them there and I'll take them to the Trello board so that people can hear them, see them, and then discuss them for you guys to watch. Let me know.
Coffee. Sometimes an idea strikes somebody. They have sort of an aha moment. They hear somebody say something that really resonates with them, or they hear about a book or a podcast or an upcoming conference, and they want to sort of remind themselves that that's going to come up. If that is the case for you, go ahead and add a card in the insights column with a note about that topic, because if it's interesting to you, it's probably interesting to someone else. So while people are adding cards, keep adding topics there. I'm curious, just a general, how is everyone enjoying the conference so far? 2 thumbs up from Fred.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot of great tips, and also making some great connections with some other agile leaders, like the speakers. Being able to connect with them on LinkedIn and start conversations, and just sharing some of the tools they have on screen has been great. I'm already thinking about ways I can bring back some stuff from Michael yesterday to my product team around deciding on backlog product prioritization when you have a couple different initiatives. I thought that was amazing yesterday, and also the product roadmap stuff from Colleen today. So many great tools.
Yeah. Welcome, Lorraine. We are just getting started. In fact, we just quickly went around and introduced ourselves. So if you don't mind, I will ask you to do that here in a few seconds. We're getting ready to start Lean Coffee. And in fact, we're collecting topics already. You can access the Trello board that we're using to manage that conversation here. I just put the link in the chat. So please let me know if you have access issues for that. I also want to let you know that our Lean Coffee today is being broadcast live on YouTube. So just an FYI. I just want everybody to know. So if they don't feel like being seen or heard today, then they can opt out. But Lorraine, whenever you have a second and feel comfortable, we'd love to hear a little bit more about you. Just a quick intro, where you are and what you do when you're not at the Agile Online Summit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lorraine Chambers. I'm located in New York. I've been a Scrum Master for almost 4 years. I work in the fintech industry. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be here. I missed yesterday, so I'm just kind of catching up with some of the events today, but what I've heard so far has been really great. And Vasco, just as a side note, I'm an avid listener of your podcast. So
thank you.
Your podcast really got me through the pandemic. When the gyms and everything were closed, I would go on long walks and I would listen to your Scrum Master Toolbox. So it's nice to
happy to hear that.
Well, and we have one more person who's logging in right now, Laura. In the meantime, everyone keep adding to the to discuss column anything you'd like to discuss. Again, it doesn't have to be something you have an answer to. It could be a question you have for others, or maybe you just heard something that was interesting to you and you want to discuss it further. Any kind of topic that you want to discuss, or it doesn't even have to be about something specific to this conference. So Laura, I just want to, or I'm sorry, it's probably Laura. Please let me know how to pronounce that correctly. But we've just gone around and done some quick introductions. While you are getting settled, I'm putting a link in the chat to the Trello board that we're using to facilitate the Lean Coffee. And then I also want to let you know that our session is live on YouTube at the moment. But when you get a chance, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the group. Okay. So we do have a few topics over here, and kind of in the interest of getting started, I want to make sure everyone understands the kind of the mechanics of Lean Coffee in case you haven't participated in the past. We have what is now a backlog of topics that at least some people in this room are interested in. I'm going to ask everybody to vote. Everyone gets 3 votes for a topic that you would most like to talk about. You can put all your votes on one card. You can spread them around. You can vote for your own topics if you want to boost them up a little bit. But the way we vote in Trello is to click once on the card, open it up, and in the upper right-hand corner, select join, and you will join that card, and that will count as a vote. It will put your little avatar on the card. If you do want to vote for a card more than once, you can add a label. So just pick one of the colors, then there's no significance to the color. Just pick one of those and it'll add a vote to the card. So right now, take your opportunity to vote 3 times.
Do we want to anything about the topics, or it looks like maybe a couple are similar? Did they merge?
Oh, that's probably a good call. I actually didn't look closely. Is there one that that jumped out as you? It's kind of similar.
I was thinking there was 2 on drawing out silent, but I might have missed. I think I didn't. I misread the giving feedback someone who doesn't seem to be receiving. So otherwise, yeah, fine. They're different enough. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. The whole thing, the conversation flows to get there.
For those of you on the YouTube channel, we have the topics that the participants have chosen now being shared. I'll go back to Zoom when we start discussing the next topic.
So it looks like there's a few more people who need to vote, or we can move on if people are fine with that as well. I'm going to go ahead and start rearranging them. Okay, so now we have our, I apologize, Alberto, I think is trying to work on his sound. So hopefully we'll get this sorted here in a second. Okay. So the way lean is our most valued topic. So that's the one at the top of our backlog. We limit our WIP to 1. So we'll only have just time. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. We'll have the discussion, and then at the end of 5 minutes, you'll hear an alarm go off. I need some kind of indication. Thumbs up, you want to keep talking about this topic. Thumbs down, you're personally ready to move on. Or sideways, you're kind of indifferent. So, yeah. Yeah, Brigham, I'm gonna, what did that do it? I just muted you just because we were getting some kind of feedback. By all means, please participate in the conversation. Just come off mute when you do. Okay, are we ready to start? All right, first up, interested in others' experience with evidence-based management.
Yeah, I posted that up there. So I've been doing some research into EBM, evidence-based management. I watched the series from Agile for Humans, which I thought was a very good introduction. And also I think Scrum Master in Black also did a little video series on that on YouTube. I just kind of want to see what other people have you how they've used it, introduced, and successes with EBM.
Has anyone done much with this at all?
I was very much hoping to just kind of lurk and gather some knowledge on this. It's quite intriguing. I've seen the term before, but I haven't really delved into it. So I was kind of hoping someone could shed some light.
I'm in a process of studying it actually. So it's a really interesting question.
So what have you learned about it so far?
Just the title. No, it's really nice metric. But it's hard to like discuss it with management. So
So I'll say to both of you, Fred and Katka, what drew you to this? What prompted you to start researching this?
For me, it was early on when I got hired at my current job. My CTO asked, like, I asked him like, what's success? And then he bounced that back to me. And so I went to the Scrum Guide and saw, it's about effectiveness of a Scrum Master being effective for the team. And I just kind of had it sitting around in the back of my head until I stumbled across EBM on YouTube while watching Agile for Humans. And then I got it. I started reading about it, read the guide. It started mapping out like the different metrics I could put into the 4 buckets of current value, unrealized value, ability to innovate, and time to market. And it really just starts speaking to me like these are like non-opinion ways to potentially measure effectiveness of a Scrum Master or a team. And I'm pretty immature in like trying to develop some of these using the tools that I have. But just to get back to your question, Faye, it was about the data. The data is that person you can bring to the conversation that doesn't have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And also, I would say that they are not really such a hard metrics as other, for example, KPIs. But these metrics actually make sense for me. And also what's interesting that they cover 4 different areas from basically every perspective of the company.
I think that's an interesting and excellent call out. When I look at just a lot of the organizations I go in and wherever they are capturing metrics, they tend to start at the team level. And, how can we measure the effectiveness of our team? But when I look at EBM, you're right. It does make an attempt to shine a light in all areas of the organization. Like where are areas to improve everywhere? I want to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the origin of talking about this as sort of a leadership topic originated with Ken Schwaber and Scrum.org. Is there another origin that others are aware of?
I think you're right. I think that's where I read there's a short like a white paper on it, like for their initial introduction.
I know he spoke at our local conference here in Columbus probably 7 or 8 years ago on the topic, and that was kind of the first time I heard the phrase being used that way, and talking about measuring the way they were thinking, the way Scrum.org were thinking about measuring what matters and using metrics for improvement. And I do know that one of their certifications that they offer, so a training class and an attached certification to that is PAL EBM. So you can actually get a certification in evidence-based management. So our alarm's going off. So some kind of indication, a thumbs up, whether you want to keep going, or thumbs down. Sort of indifferent. I'm going to take that as a move on for now. However, we've got 2 people here that if others have a burning desire to keep talking about that, I think Katika and Fred will be around, and they'll probably be happy to discuss it with you as well. Discuss it further. So next topic. In the meantime, I want to say, Adi, I placed a link to the Trello board in the chat. So please join us over there to see the topics that we are discussing. But the next topic up is, what is everyone reading and listening to these days? So I had added this one because it's a kind of a popular topic in my local Lean Coffee group, where people just like to check in with others and say, what's interesting you these days. And you notice we all ask that question at the end of our interviews with our speakers for the conference. And just sort of crowdsource what might improve our practices, or what are we reading that's stretching our thinking about how we work. So what's everybody reading, listening to, thinking about these days?
Okay, I'm reading about a book, The Art and Science of Facilitation by Marsha Ecker.
Oh yeah,
and then another book about mediation, dealing with arguments, how to calm people down, and then Happy Manifesto.
That's interesting that you bring up the Happy Manifesto. I'm going to say this wrong, but actually one of our other speakers brought that up. It's, Ritika yesterday had mentioned that that was a favorite of hers. And she said it was just only recently, like during the lockdown, during the pandemic, it had been on her bookshelf for a long time. And then having this extra time, she pulled it out to read it. And then I remembered it's also been on my bookshelf for a long time. So I need to probably move that up to the top since so many people are finding value in it. What else?
I just started another book, a science book on. It seemed interesting. So a lot of the work that I'm doing nowadays is it's doing a big organizational restructure / transformation. Yay! Yeah, a lot of it's got to do with this idea of changing behaviors. So instead of just focusing on the what we do, it's trying to understand a little bit deeper at the human level what's happening with how people show up at work and how we can get them to revisit their behaviors and change their habits. So I've read the habit books, but I was like, well, this one seemed really interesting. And it always helps when the guy's like, professor of biology and neurology at a big university like Stanford. So maybe they've got something interesting to share. So yeah, I'll let you know how that goes.
Hey, Lorraine, thank you for following. Thank you for subscribing to the channel.
Oh, wow. That was real time. No problem.
I wanted to add one book to the conversation here. It's not something I'm reading now, but it's something that I read a while back that I really appreciated and helped me see things in a different way, which is one of the metrics I use for a great book, right? It's like when it challenges your thinking and helps you build different models. And that was Anti-Fragile, Things That Benefit from Disorder by Nassim Taleb. And it reminded me, as I was going through that, how important it is to sometimes change it up as we work with teams. And he talks about things that get better when you provoke a little bit of chaos. It's always in small doses, right? Not in large doses, because that could cause very large impact. And as change agents that we are, Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, leaders in our organizations, I thought that gave me a very good model for poking or dancing with the system, as some people call it, and creating the opportunity for change to emerge. So I really like that, and I think it has some great concepts that are applicable also outside this context. But I think for Scrum Masters and Agile coaches specifically, I think that that idea of bringing small doses of chaos can cause the trigger that is necessary for change to happen. I think that's a very useful concept.
I'm just remembering now an online conversation, Vasco, that you and I had like 5 years ago, where you were suggesting this as well. And I said, I tried to read that and I'll maintain this. So long-winded. That guy is so long-winded. And I was just saying how like he just needs an editor. And
yeah,
you were
no,
like,
absolutely. It's not a book for everybody.
Hang in there. But I've never gone back to it, and I really should, because I've heard so many good things about it. But yeah, I am. Get to the point, pal. Every time I hear it.
One of my favorite new podcasts is the Agile Mentors podcast from Mountain Goat. I really like each of their episodes has like a specific thing to go over, like the initial ones. I have one more, so I'm going to say thumbs. Each one about the specific events and roles within Scrum, and now they've been interviewing other people, including I think their most recent one, Roman Pitchler was on. Really good conversations. And then as far as books, one book I just started is Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg. So I don't have much to say on that one, but I just currently downloaded that one to listen.
Smarter, Faster, Better. Charles Duhigg is actually a great like he's got a great library to dip into when you think about changing habits. He touches a lot on the science behind changing habits, down to, you know, how do some of the elites of the world build solid habits. So how do Olympic athletes build their training habits? How do they build mental resilience to work through problems as they come up? So yeah, I highly recommend nearly everything I've ever read by Charles Duhigg.
Yeah, +1 on that.
And you said the Agile Mentors was on the podcast?
Yeah, the Agile Mentors podcast by Mountain Goat Software.
Great. And I think I just interrupted someone.
No, it's okay. There's also a podcast I wanted to share called the Deeper Than Tech podcast. So I'm from a non-technical background, but I work with very technical people. So it's a pretty cool podcast because it talks a lot about, you know, like a day in the life of the developers, but on a high level, you know, it doesn't get too technical, but even just kind of understanding like the way they work and, you know, context switching and interruptions. I thought that it was very good for someone like me as a Scrum Master, just to kind of understand the developer's mind a little bit better. So, you know, when I'm planning events or just, you know, we're working on things, just kind of keeping that in mind. It's been a very good podcast. I definitely want to plug that one, Deeper Than Tech.
Yeah, I had not heard of that.
Okay, that again, Deeper
Than Tech?
Deeper Than Tech. Cool.
Yeah, Deeper Than Tech podcast. I could type it in the chat.
I've also tried to capture these and add them to the insights column. I haven't got images for all of them, but trying to add them in there. Anything else?
In the chat, I put a note. I heard a podcast recently. Is it Richard Atherton? I think his name on Being Human. He had guests describe a really interesting set of principles that he introduced at the company he started to manage. It was a call center group, and these principles individually, they all sound good, but together, when they go together, and if the group really believes them or takes it up, and some of the principles, you know, we challenge each other. We welcome challenge. The first one that he says, well, I have to have something everyone can get behind. We do the right thing. And we may disagree about the right things, but and so that's worth a discussion. It's interesting. Okay, that sounds great. Be comfortable to do something else besides the right thing and to lift up, oh, when I'm doing this thing, this is the right. It's not as easy as it would seem as doing the right thing, but as principle. And I'm thinking.
Stay around, folks. In a few minutes, around 10 minutes, we will be checking out what is the program for tomorrow's conference day. So stay around and we'll definitely cover that, just so that you know for sure what's coming tomorrow. So stick around. In a few minutes, we'll review tomorrow's talks and tomorrow's workshop. There's going to be one workshop and a keynote that we will be live streaming. So stick around.
Well, thank you for sharing those. I will, and I'll copy them over to Insights as well, but share those in the chat. Kind of getting the sign. We'll move on to the next topic. So does anyone have any tips for giving feedback to someone who doesn't seem to be receiving that feedback? So I would like to hear a little bit more about this.
Yeah, that one is, I posted that. It was a former Scrum Master is in another role that I think he's just being a little overreaching with some of his stuff, not letting people like learn, experience, or fail. And I gave him feedback. I asked like, hey, you know, can I share an observation with you? I shared it. It seemed to be received, but the actions haven't changed. And I have like a cycle every month where I have a one-on-one with this person. And so it's going to come up and I'm going to ask to share observation, what I've seen since then, which is no change. I just want to see like what other tips people might have used to like help someone. Because I think they're coming from a good place, but they just don't understand the impact it's having.
Have you asked that person to verbalize what they think the impact is from their actions?
No, and I'm writing down that tip for when I talk to them.
So you can't convince anyone of something they are not already convinced of. So the fact that you see an impact does not mean that they see that impact, right? And we sometimes are wrong, and we have to start from that perspective, that sometimes we don't see the whole picture. Well, rather, most of the times we don't see the whole picture. Neither do they, and that's okay. But when they discover an impact that they are causing by just trying to verbalize it, right? Because when we need to verbalize something, we recall things in a completely different way than if they are just in our mind. When we verbalize, we move things around. We build concepts that are more clear and we can reason about more clearly. So asking questions like, I've noticed the other day that when you started talking over Jennifer, she leaned back and did not engage with the rest of the meeting. Did you notice that? Have you seen that kind of behavior before? What do you think the impact is when you interrupt others and start talking over them?
Great example. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on. You hit it on the head there, Vasco. It was, you kind of got to give feedback on the outcomes. So the outcomes that you want to see as well as the outcomes that you think that they're trying to get towards. But it's very clear that what's important is that what you think. So, a big part of the feedback fallacy is the fact that you don't know what the other person's thinking. You don't know what they're seeing. So, like the example Vasco used is like, you got to try and get them to see it in a different light. But if they're not open to that, if that's not what they want, then they're never going to do that. The one question that always comes up with very similarly worded to this would be whether this is feedback being given or an instruction. So trying to give an instruction or a request to change something as feedback almost comes across unintentionally as manipulation. People go like, you're giving me feedback, or you're trying to tell me what to do something, and it almost triggers a bit of a rebellious mindset. So again, it's like, question for yourself, like, why do you want to give this feedback? What would be the ideal outcome for you? What is in your value systems that you might be applying on theirs? Is that the ideal outcome in the situation? And then, using those questions that Vasco mentioned are a great start. But if it's just, we've got a certain standard of way of working here, and I think that this needs to be done better, then I'd always say, look at that nonviolent communication way of doing requests. So you're actually asking for something to be done different. You're making your outcome clear. And that actually separates a request to do something differently from feedback.
Thank you.
I don't know why, when you said that what popped into my head was the scene from the movie Office Space with Jennifer Aniston and her flair, and her boss is definitely couching it as feedback, like, well, think about this, and what, how should this be received? And he even says, how do you think it appears when you do this? When really he's giving her an instruction. You need to have more pieces of flair. You've got, and it needs to be at least this, this bare, this, at this point, I will stop harassing you about it, is basically what she needs. So yeah, I think that's a good call out. And there are times we do just have requests, right? It's not feedback territory. So, but you want to keep going? Are we good? Okay.
I would throw in just one little more comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeffrey Fred Douglas Squirrel, they have a podcast. They wrote a book, adaptations, and this can be good just for even pulling together what it is on your side about accommodation. You use an old technique, the 3-column tech.
They say the podcast that Brigham is referring to is actually a very good podcast. I'll put the link here on the YouTube chat. It's the hosts of that podcast have been on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, so definitely worth following Squirrel and Frederick. And I'll put the link. It's called Agile Conversations. I'll put the link here on the YouTube chat for you guys to check it out.
About it.
The sound quality right now with Zoom is quite bad. So let me just try to translate what Brigham is saying.
Thank you. All right. Oh, and the juicy question I think a lot of people had, though, even though she's not here, what's the alternative for the product roadmap? So Colleen, Colleen's session, her, yeah, so the statement's pretty bold, right? Death to the product roadmap. And I was trying to pull up some of the notes I had from my discussion with her. Really, it's, so her, I asked her this, what's her beef with the product roadmaps? And it's not that and as with, I think, most tools, the problem isn't with the tool, it's how we use the tool or what we do with the tool. You know, she asserts her experience, and I don't necessarily disagree with this. A lot of times we create product roadmaps and then they stagnate, or they get stuck in a drawer. We don't update them. We don't use it as guardrails or guideposts of like where we're going. It either becomes kind of hard and fast. I've heard a number of people say this. They've worked in environments. Tim Ottinger talks about this a lot of, you know, you can have a roadmap of where we're headed, but as soon as you attach dates, it's a plan, and that's how people tend to think of it. So even if I say, you know, if I go by quarters, we think we want to work on this next quarter, and then the following quarter, this next bundle of work, someone somewhere setting that date expectation because we've attached it to that activity. And the more of that plan that we do, the harder it becomes to deviate. There was someone had a great quote yesterday, and I have to go back and find it, but it was the perfect synopsis of this. Like the more feedback we're receiving, the greater our ability to deviate needs to be. And the less, and so the corollary of that is the less flexible we are to deviate, the less feedback we can receive. It takes feedback off the table. It takes inspecting and adapting off the table. So that's kind of where Colleen was coming from, that if we have a roadmap, it tends to do that. Whereas if we can work in more of a flow fashion, just continually working to break works down into smaller and smaller chunks, move it through our system more quickly. And the more quickly we can move it through, the more we can get feedback and bring that feedback in to adapt our backlog.
Yeah, I also remember that in her talk, she mentioned specifically the roadmap being kind of the today's waterfall / Gantt chart plan that the whole organization needs to follow. And first of all, that is so obvious that roadmaps are even very often drawn out as Gantt charts, right? So it's one of those things that just jumps at you. And I immediately empathize with the title of the talk, because I've been saying that for a long time. I've also said that to the backlogs, in fact, with the no backlogs hashtag on Twitter. You know, flame all you want on that, but that's something I believe is preventing many teams from performing, is the overly long, extremely complex, super boring to manage, and of course also time consuming to manage backlogs that many teams are under, literally, right? Like thousands of items on a backlog. It's not healthy, right? And one of my phrases is a long backlog hides hides a few good ideas under a mountain of bad ideas, right? And that's why I really liked Colleen's title, or the title of the talk. But I have figured out what are some of the tools we can use instead. But Faye, do you remember? Do you have in your notes what was the specific alternative that she mentioned to product roadmaps?
So she's looking at specifically using concentrating on whatever you need to do to make your work more visible, whether that is using a Kanban board. Of course, Colleen, if you know her, she comes from a background of Kanban, one of the founders of Pro Kanban, and they also have tools that enable kind of easier capture of data that allows you to analyze flow metrics. So that's her perspective, but really the key was whatever you need to do to just make your ideas visible and only be delving into the details of those items just in time. That's kind of the critical thing. I know she points out in there that like working on developing a culture of being irritated when things are delayed. So when something takes too long, like everyone in the organization should develop an irritation about that. Like that should be not the way you want to work. Anyone want to keep going or keep going? That becomes an overall, like we all get bothered by that. So whatever it takes you to get there. And then working on just in general, making change as least painful as possible. So when we talk about adapting, if we're having a backlog or our list of next things we're gonna do, the next ideas we're gonna explore, not being so attached to any one of those ideas that it's super painful to swap something else out based on new information that we get.
And this idea of being more adaptable to change at the portfolio level, which is what she was talking about with the portfolio Kanban tool, which was one of the things that she mentions. I was thinking that that's exactly what the whole Agile movement is about. And what we're seeing, and I think her talk is a very great, it's the tip of the iceberg of the big conversation that we need to have as an Agile community, is that Agile is no longer about only the teams. And we need to start having conversations in our community and developing specific tools about how to move out of the team and bring these concepts, ideas, and tools, obviously, also to other sides of the organization. For example, one of the reasons why roadmaps are very often used is to coordinate many departments that all need to deliver many different things at specific times. Somebody will need to deliver a marketing campaign, somebody will be on a trade show, somebody needs to print out some t-shirts and flyers to hand out on the trade show, like all of those things, right? And we want to manage those things in the organizational level as we used to manage projects 20 years ago, right? With a very detailed plan with all the tasks laid out and all of the dependencies being tracked and managed. And I'm thinking like it's going back 20 years, right? Like a roadmap is a great example. Roadmaps still look like the Gantt charts of 20 years ago, right? And I think that's why I think that Colleen's talk, I think, is a great call to action for our community to start thinking, okay, we really need to present these ideas forward, right? It's people like to diss and maybe say bad things about SAFe, but SAFe has a set of tools for this, right? They have the portfolio Kanban. It's right there. It's an obvious tool we can bring to an organization and start making them more adaptable to change. Now, whether we can do that or not is a lot more than just the tool, as Faye said a moment ago, right? It's not the tool that changes anything, but product roadmaps are not the tool anymore, right? That they are not adaptable to change. And if that's one of the metrics of success for us as an Agile community, to be more adaptable to change, we really need to be talking about other tools.
Yeah, we recently implemented with our we do quarterly planning but we recently implemented a mental model for our product development of now, next, later.
Yeah.
And with the idea of being like, we always want to be working on the most important thing. So what you're thinking about later, that might not be there when you get there. And it's shifted the way our product research model has been going, which they've been working on. And now one thing I want them to introduce some more transparency to that, to make it open. So if anyone on a team wants to look at maybe where their product might be going, they can go look at that research if they want. Right now it's a little bit gated, but I think it's freed us up this quarter to really take the amount of time things need, not to slow them down, but to finish what we need and then be moving on to that next most important idea. Go where the market wants you to go. Like the phrase I used with everyone was embrace the emergent roadmap.
Yeah.
Love that.
You know what I think is interesting too? The place where I feel roadmaps still have a place is for a large organization that is trying to move the needle. So for instance, I just left a client that they're just in the last year, they've introduced roadmaps. So they've gone from these intricate, portfolio and project management planning things with dates, hard and fast dates attached to them, arbitrary hard and fast dates, to employing roadmaps. And we tried to introduce the idea of now, next, later. And the newly formed product area said that just won't fly. That won't work with other areas of the business. It's too far of a jump for them at the moment. And I think there is a place there. However, I think sometimes we tend to, we might use something as an interim step and then that becomes codified. So we might say, okay, for now, we're going to try this roadmap concept. It's going to look a lot like a Gantt chart. Our ultimate goal is to move even further, to be more flexible, more nimble. And, but that interim step becomes the step that becomes as far as we can go. So I think, I don't know what the solution is other than make it visible, make us aware, make the stated goal visible, and then keep trying. Yeah. Anyone else had success in killing off roadmaps?
No, we're where you are. We're still trying to get roadmaps thinking embedded, and embedded is the wrong word, but as an interim step. So we're literally still moving away from Excel Gantt charts. Yeah, baby steps.
But even though recognizing that baby steps are necessary, it's important to accept that we need to start taking those baby steps. And because we are a community of pioneers, let's not forget this, that people that have been coaching Agile for a few years are pioneers by definition. We need to be talking about what's coming next. What is the alternative? What are the things we've been trying in the community that have worked for some? Because we need to learn from that, right? Like we can't all be experimenting at the same level because we aren't all in the same type of organizations, but we can all be sharing the experiments we've had. So I really appreciate Colleen coming to the summit and sharing her perspective on the roadmaps.
Yeah. I think she calls it out in the video too, but they do, Pro Kanban has a new course that they're launching in the next couple of months, I believe, about planning at the Kanban at the portfolio level, planning this way at the portfolio level. So if you have people in your organization who are just, can't envision how that might work, they're working on a process to help guide them through that. So, cool. So we do have about 5 minutes. I might not be enough to tackle another topic, but I wanted to see if anything else about today's conversation resonated with anyone, or any other comments you want to add.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all of you for joining. I think any time you get together with people in the community, I always leave with that feeling of, this is my tribe. These are my people. And it's late at night. I've got a toddler, so my energy levels weren't that high at the beginning, but I still learned something, and I still feel a lot better now than I did earlier on before this Lean Coffee started. So thanks everyone for engaging and joining. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. I know we have several people who are, it's getting into the evening for you all, so I appreciate the time that you're sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
You're in your off hours.
And thank you all for participating.
Yeah. And I'm assuming if everyone's here, you're here because you're participating in the conference and you've maybe even subscribed to the conference. That's one thing I love about this conference is the kind of ongoing conversation, and the content stays live, so you can always come back to the Slack channel and find the other, the topics you discussed or something that somebody suggested. So please take advantage of that. If you're watching during the day as the videos come live, we're having conversations ongoing as we're all watching together, which is also a fun experience, that live discussion. So. But thank you all. Vasco, thanks for all the technical side of things too, and keeping that flowing. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Vasco.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, then we're getting to the end of the day. It's been a long day, 3 hours of streaming and actually 4 hours of content, 3 recorded tracks, parallel, 1 Agile coaching clinic, 1 live sessions workshop, and of course, this YouTube channel. If you're still watching and you like the content, please don't forget to click like and click subscribe, as it will help the channel greatly. And also, of course, it will help people with the same interests as you find the content of the summit. Before we go, I just wanted to quickly review what we have coming up. So tomorrow is Friday, November 4th, and our live sessions will include the Agile Coaching Clinic with Bob Galen, and we will be here on the YouTube live stream participating in a workshop about diversity with Dimple Shah. If you're looking into the talks, the day starts with the keynote, of course. The keynote tomorrow will be Linda Aspey talking about applying our Agile coaching skills in the complex world of climate change. So do check it out. And then we have Jutta Eckstein talking about getting more social, environmental, and economically sustainable based on data. Very interesting talk. And one of my favorites of the whole summit is David Mussig's Fighting Climate Change with the Help of Agile, how they are using Agile in an industry, the concrete industry, so construction, right? Building construction, to reduce carbon emissions and to help the environment. So check that out. It's going to be tomorrow, starting at the same time as today, right after the first keynote. On the tools track, we have Dustin Johnson talking about value stream capitalization and death to timesheets. I'm sure many of you will empathize with that goal. And in the happiness track, we have Dave Westgarth talking about how to theme your retros, and Nicole Wilker talking about your must-have skills that you already have. So that's a great lineup for tomorrow. And of course, we will be here hosting this live YouTube stream for another 2 hours. It's been a pleasure to be here with all of you. Don't forget, this is also an AMA, so ask questions in the YouTube chat and we'll be happy to answer. But for now, I say good afternoon, good night, good evening, good morning to some of you, of course, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Agile